You are watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest City of Fayetteville ward meeting. Ward meetings are held at various times by City Council members to interact with and receive feedback from the residents of their ward.
We're so glad y'all are here. Thank you for coming. It's an exciting presentation. And Bruce, though we're small, we are being recorded, and I know a lot of Ward 4 people who will watch this later. So it's bigger than it looks. It's a bigger crowd than it looks.
Well, we want to go around and introduce ourselves, I guess.
Great.
My name's Alan Long, the Ward 4 Position 2 representative.
And I'm Rhonda Adams, Ward 4 Position 1.
Tom Bohannon, live on Palmer.
Maurice Rankin, we're on Apple Springs.
I'm just glad you're back with us.
Bruce Shackleford, Environmental Consulting Operations.
Beth Presley, Prodigal Friends.
and I'm Bill Moeller, Friends of Prodigal Friends.
And a very faithful Ward 4 and Friends meeting members.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chuck Adams, Ward 4 citizen.
And Mike Perryman, Fayetteville PD.
Thank you for coming.
And Officer, do you live in Ward 4 too?
I do not.
I will send you our Ward 4 agenda thinking that you did. Well, we're glad everybody's here. So this is April already. We had some good meetings, January, February, March, and now Bruce is here in April, and we ought to just turn it over to you, let you talk a little bit about the many years that you've been working for the city and doing exciting things.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. It's quite an honor, and you'll have to, when the tomatoes and stuff start flying, you'll realize I can talk for hours about Woolsey Wet Prairie, but I'll have to keep it brief because I know you have other business issues to deal with. But for those of you that aren't familiar with Woolsey Wet Prairie, it's immediately to the north, the west side wastewater plant, and some really awesome things have happened there. It was actually constructed to offset wetland losses during the west side wastewater plant construction, also improvements to Royals Road. And as required by the Corps of Engineers, we had to do compensatory mitigation. And other than just meeting regulatory requirements, we've had some really awesome things happen out there I'd like to share with you tonight. And so first I would like to bring something. I brought a special gift for Rhonda because in some of the emails and correspondence, and so she sent me this email saying my husband and I like to go to this prairie preserve in Florida every year or every so often on our vacations, and I told her, oh, that's up near Mickinow Peak. And so, the James Taylor song, Seminole Wind, blow, blow from Okeechobee way on up to Mickinow Peak. And so she sent me an email and said, James Taylor is my favorite all-time artist. And so what I brought to you are 4th row tickets.
Oh my goodness.
And look at the date.
2011.
April 29th, tonight.
You were there 2 years ago tonight?
Yeah, on 4th row, and that is, on the back of the ticket is James Taylor's signature. Well, and so we got to see James Taylor close and personal. So I thought I'd bring that to
So you just want me to put my head down and start crying and envy.
I thought you were getting front row tickets.
Well, I've seen him once too, but I did not get his signature, so an autograph. So
he's
got
incredible.
that.
He's still got it going on. So okay, we're going to move along pretty fast here. I've given many presentations before about Woolsey Wet Prairie, and I always like to introduce what we did in this ecological restoration. And we basically started out with a tall fescue pasture, and Woolsey Wet Prairie looked like this, and this, and this. Decades of cattle grazing and haying, and the introduction of the invasive species tall fescue that just doesn't let anything else grow in there. And so we began our ecological restoration, and these pictures were taken like a little over a year later, and we made it look like this, and this, and this, and this. You can see the dump truck in the background going down Broyles Road. That's when Broyles Road was still a dirt road, and the construction was going on in the west side wastewater plant and on the improvements to Broyles Road, and there were very few houses there, and since that time the building boom and people selling houses before the paint dried on them, and the city has going around Woolsey Wet Prairie, even though it's on the edge of town, it's kind of a central park, is what it's kind of come to be, and that's another side. What we've done to get Woolsey Wet Prairie where it is a type of approach called adaptive management. And unlike engineering, where you can design something like a pump station or a sewer line, you know how many millions of gallons of water are going to go through it, and what pumps you have to have, and all the things they do, and all these calculations. Nature is not so easy for us to calculate. So you use a system called adaptive management. I call it learning by doing, and you basically look at the tools you have in your toolbox, and you plug one of them in, and then you see how the site responds, and then you decide, well, what's the next tool I'm going to plug in. So it's a learning process, and we're through the restoration phase, and now we're in the maintenance phase. And so on March the 3rd, we had a prescribed burn, and we usually like to schedule our burns in the spring. And what we know is going to be the first thing that happens after the prescribed burn is the first plant to come up is going to be tall fescue, the dreaded tall fescue, because it's a cool season perennial grass. And so the way we've been knocking it back without having so much collateral damage, you get in there with the herbicide and spray the tall fescue when it's coming up, and all the native plants are still dormant, so it doesn't hurt them. We use very low impact herbicides that have been quite effective. And so you can see an area there where herbicides, this is right after the burn, and when some of the green areas will start turning green and the fescue is coming up. And then here's an area you can see clumps of fescue that have been sprayed, and they have kind of a blue color because we mix a dye, a blue colored dye, with the herbicide so that you can tell where you sprayed. And then here's a photograph that was taken today, and you can see where the fescue is dyed back in contrast to the area that was not sprayed on the right. And because we have to avoid areas that have water in them, we can't spray the herbicide on the water, but it's very effective in knocking it back. So far, and what we saw happen after we started plugging in adaptive management, we actually had a contract with a contractor to come in and plant native seeds. And so some native plant seeds are $50 a pound, some of them are $500 a pound. I think that contract was like $150,000. And so we started seeing this native stuff coming up beyond our wild strains that was dormant in the seed bank, in the soil, and it was being suppressed by that tall fescue that was there. And I call it peeling back the layers. As we started peeling back the layers of tall fescue, all these really neat plants came up. And 9 of those species are rare plant species that are tracked by the Arkansas Natural Heritage Commission. And so we're still adding them. Even last year, this is one, a pink milkwort, that became the 9th tracking species that came up out there. It's a beautiful little plant. And so when you have sensitive plant species, it shows that you have an ecologically sensitive area. It's somewhat of a measure of success when you see plants like that coming up out there. When we began this process in 2005, we did a baseline plant inventory, and you can see the progression there, and continually burning every year, spot spraying the invasive species. And we started out with 47 plant species, and as of last fall, we're now up to 396 plant species. And those all came from being there in the seed bank, in the soil. We canceled that $150,000 contract with the group that was going to come do the seeding because we saw that we didn't need it. Mother Nature has an amazing way to repair itself. So other exciting things, whether you're a birder or not, if you can basically look at the ecologically significance of this. I have a Woolsey Wet Prairie website that I maintain. I have people emailing me pictures all the time, and there's a fellow named Mike Montanell, and Mike doesn't have a cell phone. And so he was out at Woolsey Wet Prairie, and he saw this casing sparrow, which this is the second record of it being seen in Arkansas. He walks across the street to the fellow that has the dirt farm over there and asks him, can I borrow your cell phone to call Joe Neal? And the guy that has the dirt farm has an interest in birds, and they start talking about birds, and so then Mike calls Joe Neal, and Joe Neal comes back out there, and they walk back over to where he had seen it, and they looked and couldn't find it, and finally Mike goes, there it is, and Joe Neal got this picture of it. Second record for the state of Arkansas. And of course, other shore birds like killdeer, it's not much, most of the shore birds do not nest here, but killdeer do. And you won't find anything much cuter than little baby killdeer running around out there. They're all legs. And here's some examples over the years of photos that I've gotten of the shorebirds. And the shorebirds are there now. They migrate through this time of year. They don't nest there, but their habitat is dwindling. And so they're coming out from South America, and they're going to go up into Canada and do their nesting. And so it's very important in their life cycle during their migrations that they have suitable habitat where they can stop and check into the hotel for a few days and get a bite to eat and get some rest. And so that's a lot of problem with some of these migratory species not having suitable areas that they can use as rest areas. And so other examples of neat birds that have been seen there, there's a lot of songbirds there, yellow warbler, leaf bittern, yellow-headed blackbird. Here's the thing I got by accident. I was out there in 2008, and there are a lot of blue-winged teal out there right now. But this was June. Usually they're gone. And saw these two mama ducks with baby ducks, and I took pictures of them and shared them with my birder friends. Well, Mike Lott now, he's like the keeper of the records with Audubon. He sends me an email, and he said that is only the 8th known record of blue-winged teal having their young in the state of Arkansas. They usually go further north, and that is the only known record of 2 broods of blue-winged teal babies being together. So that was an accident, but I'll take the record anyway. Other neat birds they've seen out there are spotted towhees. That's different than the typical rufous-sided towhee that we have. Peregrine falcon, marsh wren, Henslow sparrow. It is an indicator of sensitive and vanishing very rare prairie species. Here's a really cool one that Andrew Scaboo took. It's a prairie falcon that is a Washington County record that he took during the Christmas bird count. Other neat hawks that people photograph out there. Nelson sharp-tailed sparrow, really beautiful little bird. And some people go out there and go, well, all I see is a bunch of little brown birds. But the sparrows that come through and migrate through Woolsey Wet Prairie are really incredible. A lot of different species, and they're really pretty birds. And they depend on those prairie habitats. We're not sure, but this is the first or second state record as of December of last year for a brewer's sparrow. And it's incredible when you get something that's a state record, but these neat people that are going out there are not only seeing it and verifying it with one another because they are the bird experts, they're getting pictures of it, which I think is pretty incredible. Spano sparrows, another one of them. Here's another one. In contrast to the loggerhead shrike, which many of you have seen before, they'll catch little lizards and things, and they'll go impale them on the thorn of the locust tree or on a barbed wire, and they're very predatory. Well, this is not a loggerhead shrike. This is a northern shrike, and this is the second state record for the state of Arkansas. And it was photographed out there at Woolsey Wet Prairie. Also, during the 2010 Christmas bird count, a grasshopper sparrow was observed. This event was started in 1961 by Dr. Doug James, and it had never been seen during the Christmas bird count. And then also, we didn't have a photo of it, but Mike Wadnow observed the purple gallinule, the only known record north of Cleveland County in Arkansas. And so here are people I see out here often. The person on the left, I was out there April the 4th. The person on the left is Joe Neal. He's a well-known author and ornithologist. He's retired from the Forest Service. And the young man on the right is Mitchell Pruitt. And it's very exciting to me to see that next generation coming on who have an interest in nature. And the kid is an incredible photographer. He's really good. And so Joe has mentored him somewhat. You see these guys out there all the time. That was on April the 4th. That was, I guess I'll say it on TV, Joe's 67th birthday. And what a great way to celebrate that. I'm in my 60s. It's not that painful. So what they saw that day, a few of the examples, greater and lesser yellowlegs, they are very similar shorebirds, and oftentimes seeing them together helps you differentiate them from one another. And then Mitchell, he's a student at U of A, and catching flying birds with this clarity. He got this incredible photo of the greater and lesser yellowlegs. And he's got the patience to sit out there and do it. I could picture that swamp sparrow that day. This right here is one of the best pictures. This is the Wilson's fowl rope. And so no one had ever seen them at Woolsey Wet Prairie. They have a very unusual natural history. They have reverse sexual dimorphism. And typically in birds, the males are more brilliant and prettier colored and all that. Well, not with these Wilson's fowl ropes. And so they're more colorful ones you see on the left are the females. And so they take on the dominant role. They do the courtship display to attract a mate. They set up their territory and build a nest and defend it vigorously. And they are highly evolved birds. You know why? Because the female lays the eggs, and then she migrates south and the male incubates. So they are very highly evolved birds. And they also are interesting because not only can they wade, they can swim like a duck. So they'll swim around and around in circles, and it causes this little vortex and starts sucking up stuff off of the bottom, different types of little invertebrates and things, and then they watch them, and the little invertebrates that are circling around on the outside of the vortex, then they can eat them. And so people ask me, well, why do they call them the Wilson's fowl ropes? And I said, well, word has it that sometimes as they're swimming in circles, they will throw a volleyball with a face painted on it, and when the wind catches the volleyball and it blows away, they yell out, "Wilson!" Which, that's really not true. If you remember the movie Castaway that was in there. They're actually named after Alexander Wilson, who was a famous ornithologist who did a lot of work, even well before John James Audubon. And so these have been seen out there. This is awesome. These are white-faced ibises that were seen at Woolsey Wet Prairie last week. We've never seen them there before. And this is something like you see in the marshes off the coast of Texas and Louisiana. And so they're there at Woolsey Wet Prairie. We also have another neat species out there. It is the Osage burrowing crawfish. They are kind of a terrestrial species. They have that blue color. And they're the ones that build the chimneys, the little mud chimneys. And they'll have burrows down in the ground like 3 feet deep. And people ask, well, why do they build the chimneys? Well, when you think about it, when they come out on the surface, they're very vulnerable to predators. And so if you're going to be digging a hole and you're going to be living down in the ground and stay close, during the drought conditions, try to stay close to the water table, when you're bringing little pellets of mud, because they make these little pellets out of mud, when you bring them to the surface, you're not going to take them 10 feet away. You're exposed to predators. So you're going to stack them right there. In fact, they actually build those chimneys, and they'll actually seal the top of the chimney off. But they are not completely safe. This right here is our latest and greatest find. And Dr. J.D. Wilson of the University of Arkansas, absolutely no relation to Wilson's fowl ropes. He is a herpetologist, and so he came across this snake, and it is Graham's crayfish snake. And so Graham's crayfish snake has not been observed. It's more common down in the eastern delta of Arkansas and in the Arkansas River Valley. This snake has not been seen in northwest Arkansas for about 60 years. And he found one at Woolsey Wet Prairie, so that was quite a neat find, and he shared the pictures of it, and then we, several of us sent records, as did Dr. Wilson, to the Arkansas Department of Natural Heritage. Another event going on at Woolsey Wet Prairie that might be a little bit hard to read, but what that is a tabulation of the wetland credits. And so what we had to do is assess the number of credits needed during the impacts to wetlands, and then design a wetland mitigation site that generated enough credits to offset the ones that we needed. Well, lo and behold, Woolsey Wet Prairie has generated almost 100 more credits than we needed. And so we have an opportunity here to expand Woolsey Wet Prairie, but it's going to take money. And so, but there are savings from these surplus credits because they can be sold. They can be treated like a mitigation bank. So the game plan right now is the city of Fayetteville has a project, a street project over on Van Ash. They're going to need some credits for that. And instead of going, and the advantage of banks, instead of going and building a little bitty wetland, there's compensatory mitigation somewhere, offset what's going to be done at Van Ash. A little bitty site just doesn't have the ecological function and value as a larger site. So that's why EPA and the Corps of Engineers have encouraged mitigation banks, because they're typically larger acreages of land and they function better. So the city will be able to, instead of building a wetland mitigation site, they will be able to cash in on some of these. There's also another project I've recently been contacted on by Benton County, and Benton County is doing a highway improvement project, and they're going to need some wetland credits. So we're in the process of trying to get up to speed on selling these credits to them, and that revenue will then be put into the western area on Woolsey Wet Prairie and expand it even more and make that a bank, and then have more credits to sell, and there will be enough, I promise you, because there aren't that many wetlands here, but when you have an impact to them, you're going to need some kind of credits. And so conceivably the city could sell some of these credits from our expansion into the bank, or use them for their own infrastructure improvements. And it would be enough credits to last the city of Fayetteville for many, many years, and in doing so, greatly enhance the great resource that's already there at Woolsey Wet Prairie. So I don't know if you can see the lines very well or not, but the conceptual design, we've divided it up into some polygons there, and the one on the right that's green, green, green is Woolsey Wet Prairie, immediately north of the wastewater plant. To the west, there's the west unit there, and it's got the same thing that Woolsey Wet Prairie had, those Prairie Pimple Mountains. And we'd be going there and do the same thing, knock back the fescue, change the hydrology, build some earthen berms that serve as trails, and make wetland cells in there, and just be hopping next door. And we know a lot more on how best to do that. We're very familiar with that site. We've been through the learning curve. So we could go over there and do it for probably a lot less and a lot less time and money both, and do that expansion. We won a few awards for Woolsey Wet Prairie, the ADEQ Environmental Stewardship Award, a really good one. If you go in Mayor Jordan's office, there's a great big turkey statue sitting on his desk. And so what that is, the Arkansas Wildlife Federation has this award, the Corporate Conservationist of the Year. And so for Woolsey Wet Prairie, the city of Fayetteville is the first and only city to win that award since the inception of the Arkansas Wildlife Federation in 1936. And so that's why Mayor Jordan has that on his desk. It's certainly something to be proud of. We've also won through Illinois River Watershed Partnership, the Golden Tile Award, designated as the Certified Wildlife Habitat. It's the National Wildlife Federation in 2011, also special recognition from the American in Bloom folks. And the next thing we're working on is to become an Audubon IBA. And an IBA is an important bird area. And with all the neat birds that have been seen out there, there are all these forms you have to fill out and have to meet certain criteria. And I think there's like 26 IBAs in Arkansas. So we're shooting to get Woolsey Wet Prairie listed as an IBA. Woolsey Wet Prairie is already on ebird.org as one of the birding hotspots in the United States. You can find out more about Woolsey Wet Prairie on the Woolsey Wet Prairie website, or just Google Woolsey Wet Prairie. There's videos of a prescribed burn we did on there on YouTube. Aubrey's got some videos out there. All the monitoring reports for the last 6 years are on that website. And so now we have a new project. We've done, I think, 6 or 7 government channel television programs. And I've worked with Fru Gallagher for many years doing these educational programs about Woolsey Wet Prairie. And so Fru retired, And so I called Fritz with the government channel and talked to him. Well, I want to do another program, but I want to do something different. Instead of a single event program, I want to shoot a progression. And so who will I be working with? And he said Neil Bilby. So I've been working with Neil Bilby, and I said, here's what I want to do. I want to have a program that's entitled Woolsey Wet Prairie, What Happens After the Burn. And so we go out there and we shoot these scenes of blackened ground after the burn, and then we shoot scenes of all these native plants coming up in the spring and the birds coming in and what have you. And then we interview knowledgeable people. And can you lobby Fritz for an hour on the program instead of 30 minutes? And so we were granted an hour. So we are currently in production on shooting this. We'll probably finish it sometime in June, and then in July he will start the editing process, and it'll be on the air sometime thereafter. So I'll give fair warning to two of our aldermen here, because next week when we come out to